This is killer.
Oh,
This would be perfect for travel.
I could like zoom in on an owl.
hey, this lens might be for me.
Small, great focal range, and really light.
This lens is a grower, not a shower. One of the most common questions I get as a photographer from other beginner photographers is what lens would be the best that they can purchase and kind of shoot everything with, from landscapes up into wildlife. But I think I finally found that lens, and that is the Tamron 28-300, which I've actually got right here. I've already done the unboxing. And as you can see, it's quite a small package. Starting at 28, zooming all the way into 300 is absolutely wild. So I'm just gonna jump into a few of the reasons why I think this might be a great option for some people in the marketplace. And first of all is that it might be the perfect all-around lens. That's gonna differ depending on your use case. If we're talking about that question, what lens is gonna cover all of my bases? This is about the only lens that I know of on the marketplace that is covering such a wide range of focal lengths, starting at 28, like I said, all the way into 300 millimeters, which I think in the other versions only go up to 200 millimeters if you're starting on the wide angle lens. So this lens gives you incredible versatility all in just a small package. So if you're looking for one lens, you don't want to buy the kit lens and you want to get something maybe slightly upgraded, this is going to be a very good option to kind of bypass past that kit lens and also get you up into those mid-length telephoto ranges. Number two is just a quick one, but it's just the incredible versatility, which I touched on in the first point. But there's really nothing out there that's going to allow you to shoot landscapes in wider angle scenes up into telephoto, which at 300 millimeters is going to give you opportunity to shoot portraits, landscapes like the peak of mountains and details like that. People on the street photography, this is going to be great for if you're traveling around and you want to carry a small package with you, but also wildlife. So you can shoot animals up close on the wide end and then zoom right into smaller animals like cheetah. Maybe it's far off in the distance and you can get out there quite a ways, especially if you were shooting on a cropped lens or you have the ability to crop in after when you're editing. It's going to give you a lot of range when you're getting up to that further focal lengths. Number three is great image quality. I've been practicing shooting around with it, getting to try it out a little bit over the last few days, and overall I have had great images coming out of it. While I'm used to a little bit of a lower aperture lens that I shoot on most days, this is starting at f4. So in general, you're going to get more sharpness throughout the image because you have a higher aperture number. And at 300 millimeters, this goes all the way up to f7s for days where you have bright scenes. And if you're not going into too far into the night, you're going to be having sharp images all the way through, as long as you're not having to crank that ISO up too much, which could possibly be an issue with having that higher aperture. Another thing that I really like about this lens is just the general size. As you can see there, it fits in one hand and it's very, I would say, light to feel compared to my 35 to 150, which is absolute beast. It's bigger in diameter and also a bit longer. That thing is definitely feels heavy to carry around for a long time, but I'm going to shoot on this all day and see how it feels. Right now, it just feels kind of like a 24 to 70. I would even beg to say that it's on the lighter side of a Sony 24 to 70 or very similar to the 28 to 75 by Tamron itself.
That's where you see a lot of the difference. Again, 28 to 300 and 28 to 75. The barrel is coming out so much more here.
Another pro in this category, especially if we're talking from a beginner or if you're a beginner and you want that one lens, is the affordability. I believe it's around $900 US. I'll put the exact price tag up here. But when we're talking about maybe possibly not having to get two lenses to fill out this focal length, this is going to give you so much versatility all in one small package. So I think that price point, even though $900 isn't just nothing to scoff at, it's still giving you so much that you'd have to buy two other lenses. And if we're talking about G Masters or something like that on the Sony side, you could be spending upwards of $5,000 to get the same range. You're going to have trade-offs on each side, but that is definitely something to look for. And it's definitely, for me, in the affordable category. The other thing that I was very surprised to find, because it's not often found in the Tamron lenses, is the VC or vibration control. So because this goes all the way up to 300, they have put stabilization in here, which allows you to zoom all the way out and make sure that when you're shooting photos or even video and hand holding that, it's going to make sure that you're getting sharp images and you're not chattering all over the place. So for me, who often is shooting at 300 millimeters and possibly even cropped in, I'm going to really like having that stability, and it allows for run and gun operations a lot easier, especially when you're traveling and you don't have a stabilizer or anything like that. It's going to be super handy to have that stabilization built into the lens to go along with your in-body stabilization. This is just a super general overview of all the things that I've liked so far about this lens and the options that it's giving you when you're shooting with it. But on the pro side, which isn't very long, I would have to start with the aperture range, which is obviously a trade-off when we're talking about how small this lens is. But in order to get 28 to 300 millimeters in here, the aperture is variable. So this lens is starting at f4, like I said, and slowly transitioning up to f7.1 at 300 millimeters. So while that's not horrible, and depending on the type of shooter you are going to lose some light at those longer focal lengths. F4 you can do a lot with, especially obviously on the wide side and in lower light situations like shooting landscapes. And with these new cameras, we can crank that ISO up to make do. But I do think that if you're shooting in dark alleyways, or if it was a wildlife subject that was in the forest, you might have an issue with getting enough light into the sensor just because of that higher f7.1 aperture. This is also leading into saying that you're going to be missing out on some of that creamy background blur or bokeh that you would have on something like a 400 millimeter f2.8 or 300 2.8, which is going to have super soft, beautiful backdrops. And at 300 millimeters, just because of the telephoto compression and whatnot, if you have enough background depth between your subject and the background, you're still going to get nice blur, but it just might not be quite as much as what you might see on a lower aperture lens. And along with the higher aperture, I think something that could possibly be an issue, but as long as you're careful, I have never had a problem, is just the external zoom. You can see right here, it actually has two zoom portions that come out of the lens, and that's just allowing you to get that crazy telephoto into a package like this and allowing it to collapse down low. But if you're like me, shooting in rain, snow, and crazy dust storms sometimes, that does allow for dust and water to get kind of down in there. But I think you can cover that up. You could even put a bag or something over there if you're really worried about dust or rain, and do your best to kind of keep dust out of there. I'm going to be spending the day shooting with this lens and asking some other creators what they think of this, because I bet they haven't even seen it yet, as it's just kind of came out.
We are going to show my friend Matt, my new friend, over the last couple months. Just moved to the area. Okay, so we're going to show him the lens. I already give you guys a rundown and get his first impressions. Here we go.
Holy. Okay, this lens might be for me. 28 to 3. That's crazy. So you basically have like the whole range, f4 to 7.1. Let's see. This is crazy, actually. And I like it because it's light.
How's the size feel for that range?
Like, it feels, I feel like you could just kind of bring, this could be the everything lens, you know?
I was thinking it's perfect for the beginner that doesn't have any lenses and they don't want a kit lens, and it can cover the whole range, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because even f4 is like pretty good for like when you're starting out. Like, I feel like when I started out, that's what I had. Actually, like, this is crazy. When I first zoomed out, I was not expecting it to be this beefy, but yeah, it's sweet. I like it because it's light. Yeah, especially, so I'm a big travel guy, like especially as an avid traveler, like this is something that you can bring and just like cover the full range.
I like it.
You know? So.
And who do you think it's for?
I would say the beginner travel creator or wildlife. I feel like you can crush somebody with this. Not that I do much wildlife, but if I was into it,
somebody that wants to start getting into wildlife, but also wants something they can shoot landscapes with, kind of, right?
Okay, first impressions. This thing is really light. We're working with a 28 to 300. This is sick. I currently have a 28 to 200. This is very similar. It feels lighter. It extends. We got a USB port on the side. Button. Spins nice. This is great. I could see this being really great for somebody traveling who just wants to bring one lens with them. I don't know if I'd shoot commercial work on it. I'd have to see how sharp it is. I bet you it's pretty sharp.
Tamron,
with it being Tamron.
You've had good experience with Tamron.
I've had incredible experiences with Tamron. Wow, I feel like that price is really good for what you're getting here. Aperture 4.0 to 7.1. I think that's fine, especially if you're going to be traveling with this. You're probably shooting during the day. If you're shooting on a Sony, the low light's so good already. I don't know if you need that 2.8. Plus, with it being 4.0, you're probably catching focus most of the time and you're not missing shots.
Overall, I think this lens kind of does it all, and I think it does it fairly well, minus those few things that I mentioned. So for somebody that's looking for a lens that kind of covers the entirety of the range from wide angle or semi-wide angle at 28 millimeters up into those mid telephoto ranges, like 300 millimeters can do a lot, especially when we're talking about street photography or shooting details and wildlife. Not many lenses allow for you to do that in one package. So I think for somebody that maybe doesn't want to get the kit lens, like I mentioned earlier, or wants a smaller package to travel around with and only wants to carry one lens, I really do think this could be an option that could kind of cover everything for you. When I was starting out, I was shooting on like a 18 to 55 millimeter Canon lens on my old Canon T1i, and I was always wanting more reach. I couldn't afford to buy a 70 to 200. That's over $2,000. But when we're talking about spending maybe $900 and being able to shoot everything, I think this is actually much more achievable than a lot of the other options on the market. And that's why I do think it's going to be a super good option for somebody that wants to kind of shoot everything, maybe isn't a professional and doesn't have the budget to kind of use it as a work expense, but still wants to get the best that they can, as well as having the opportunity to shoot a variety of subjects in one lens. So I definitely would take a look at this. I, even for myself, who's a full-time travel and adventure creator, think that I'm going to use this for some trips, especially backpacking, where I just don't want to carry the weight of my 200 to 600 or 150 to 500 from Tamron. And it's going to allow me to take a longer focal length into the backcountry and just kind of have that as a backup when I'm going to be primarily shooting on a wide angle and don't really want to carry the weight. This is a variety of image examples that I'm going to shoot on the lens. I'm going to show you all throughout the range.
So we just stopped off here at one of the viewpoints in Banff, and I got the 28 to 300 here. And right now I am shooting at 28 millimeters at f4, getting that classic landscape, which fits it in perfectly for this spot. But yeah, pretty much the perfect focal length to get everything in frame here. And I'm going to zoom in. I'm now at about 100 millimeters, pretty tight on that mountain. Just going to pop over here, shoot a vertical frame. I'm now at about 50 mils, not such a wide landscape, maybe at more like 35. A little tighter. See if we can get a couple more angles here before I head back to Calgary. Another nice frame here. We'll see if we can get it. Get a little bit of foreground. I'm shooting a little bit more of a classic landscape in this spot. And let's go right in tight on the peak of that mountain just to show you what 300 will do. I've never obviously experienced a lens that can do so much versatility in one lens. Like, there we go. Look at that money. Again, just with the classic frame here at 28 at f4. Jeez, so nice. Probably even better as a vertical. And then let's go into like 70. No, not quite 50. You do have to adjust the aperture, or I mean ISO and shutter speed a little bit to make sure you got enough light. Then let's shoot over this way just to show you guys some different light. Honestly, pretty impressive. If you're not shooting for like real blurred bokeh or anything like that, I think you're gonna love this lens. I'm excited to get these into the camera or into the computer and to see how they look. But overall, it's pretty impressive. If you can see that, I'm zoomed right in and it's tack sharp at 200 millimeters. Just to zoom in closer to this top of this tree here to show you what the bokeh would be like. 7.1 and 300 millimeters. You're gonna get some background separation. But pretty impressive. I'll back it all the way off for the same frame. Bang.
So make sure you let me know what you think about this lens. As I've given you some of my thoughts, it's a bit of an interesting one. I still have to do some more shooting with it and get to feel for editing these images and whatnot. But overall, super cool to see what Tamron does. The camera industry is absolutely going crazy these days. So many options are coming out. And previously I've talked about the 35 to 150, which has become one of my favorite lenses. And this is kind of in that new age of lenses. That's an unconventional focal length. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for photographers to pick up something like this to kind of fill in the holes for their kit.